Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We continue on with our derivation. What is sensorality? What is sensodorality? Just looking for this direct iteration to stabilize our definition. What is the quality of being a sensor? By direct iteration showing sensorality's natural definition. Fluency is influential. The word influential spells out the word fluent. Fluent is fluent. It is what it is. We're showing the identity, the natural rooting of the conceptualization of censorship. What is sensorality? And so, just moving through our derivation steps, pointing out any insight, but just working through analysis. What is charge to tension? Again, tension is this iteration of sension. We have direct progress on that. Does spinning charge? Again, are two things kind of numeric to physical existence. One thing, two thing, one, too many. This containment, the physical properties, each thing has this internal containment of two properties. And then that's in the general mathematical, and then the actual existence labeling the world around us. Right? We have spin and we have charge. And so still, again, some sort of resolution. I don't spend much time on the conceptual resolution because all of the insight is drawn directly from the linguistic progression, and the completion of the conceptualization is already known. So it's not a point to like guess on that stuff. But just again, is charge positive and negative? Right, this one property, two property, right? Literally everything is a stabilized dynamic of charge. That charge is dynamic, produces mass. That mass per unit volume is definite. So is that one charge? Again, just where is this? What is this fundamental dichotomy? Something's still not lined up perfectly yet. What is spin to tension? Spinning rotates. Sensorality is tentorality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Again, we have this English alphabet, we have this word form, sensorality. Now we can directly iterate one element forward or backwards. And again, the more A is our first number, the more ordinally you progress through the alphabet. Still not really sure how to like say that. Is that a base progressing to range? Is that one element progressing through a set? But you get what I'm saying, the ordinality, the order of the alphabet, A to Z, going from generalization to specific. But QRS, then we make something more specific, tentorality. We just take the S and go directly to the T. That's the analytical motivation for this step. Sensorality is tentorality, but then we just drop that other T. Right? What is tentorality? Two complete words, but we have a well-defined word. Sensorality is tenorality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality filters tenor. Is tenor tender? Direct iteration. Is tender sore? What is tenor to register? What is tenor to tone? Clear musical context is what I'm thinking through here. But again, at this point, all of the conceptualization should generate the context for you. Tenor is tone plus R. Again, highlighting some of these specific, more poignant containment statements. Tenor is tone, and then we're pointing out, again, and you're expanding with more syllables, with more letters. What is tenor to key? Does tenor tremor? Sensorality trembles. Sensorality is tremorality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Shout out to the movie series Tremors. Classic. What is tenor to cadence? What is cadence to density? What is cadence to flow? What is pace to cadence? Does cadence dance? Again, highlighting that, again, this iteration of the E and the A. Just moving through our steps. Sensorality is the quality of censorship. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is relationship to censorship? Highlighting the syllability, drawing out my vocality a little bit, emphasizing again, ship is a complete word. So we have this irreducibility, we have this syllability, we line up our irreducible syllables in the most efficient sequence possible, we get an irreducible word, something that is well defined. Sensorality is, just said that one, inability incapacitates. Censorship incapacitates. Sensorality is chargicality. Natural definition, direct iteration. That was, where did I get, that was just, again, one of those direct word forms where we have another word forms of argic, and then I just put, it looks like charge, so I put the consonant charge in front of it. And it forms this linguistic construction where you can hear the base word chargicality. But that was directly pulled from something of the last episode. Again, each episode I write when I'm editing the previous episode, again, we're exhausting all of the logic that can be answered. Right? Language is this structure. You can only pose so many questions that are definitively answerable, where you're answering them all along the way. Those are all these little questions that even sound kind of goofy a lot of times. But when I go through and edit the previous episode, anything that is still present, because these are just theorems that I've written down and I just start deriving again. And so a lot of times it doesn't make sense to rederive it because you get the same exact results, and just to put good pace to these videos. But I'm exhausting, again, like tightening up each of my previous episodes. You know, I say a good amount of things. I say 80% of what I'm trying to say. And then I tighten that up. Any loose end, any theorem, any insight I can draw, we talk about it in the next episode, and now it's 85% tight. And we're just getting it to 100%. Sensorality is directly this. You know, a simple 1-minute video directly showing the linguistic exhaustion. But point being, sensorality is chargicality. That was a direct form where argic came from something in the last. Shape changes, or again, that was a direct geometric one. And so a note on the coloration, again, the blue ones, we started with blue with white boundaries. Those are still theorems. Again, I'm just presenting this as novel. Once you prove it is what it is, complete identity. Everyone's talking in theorems all of the time, but it's, you know, well articulated in formal mathematics. And so those are theorems, but I'm presenting them as if they're still open because we're demonstrating all of this analytical progression again. And so when they go from blue to green, that's when the point where we've developed enough context where we can prove something. And so the ones with green with black borders are theorems that are proven within the context of from rhythm to algorithm, directly sensorality. And then the ones that are irreducible logical constructions with finite linguistics, you would have to restart all of Earth history to like change anything, or those are the ones in yellow. And so any axiomatic definition or derivation subsequently will have to, I'm doing my best to show you would certainly have to hit the yellow ones. A lot of the time you're going to have to hit the green ones. And the blue ones are still theorems. It's just I'm presenting this whole analysis process as novel, and I've already proven it. And so anything after the establishment of speciality validates everything as a theorem. And so, but just to give you a note, and then the purple one yesterday, shape changes, that is just, forget any semantic meaning, that is a direct geometric iteration, and that's how we're stabilizing sensorality. So the colors are just showing progression of where we're at with the, like what kind of like proofing level we're at. And again, you've never seen, right? Terence Tao and Brian Greene are the greatest mathematicians of our day, kind of attempt to think about something for one theorem maybe, but you haven't established the conceptual basis. You haven't shown the internal consistency of logic. I have. And so it's just like, again, you're like, Brad, these are all theorems, and like nobody else has done one theorem. And it's like, yeah, that's the beginning of the big jump. In the theorems I don't even care about. The proofing sections I don't even care about. I'm just a person trying to live my life. I've been doing this analysis process my whole existence. Moving along, but then if you were to put chargicality, so this is another fun, we're getting into these word forms. We're directly calculating, so to speak, again, just common phrasing. And so if you put chargicality into a word processor, Google, Microsoft Word, it naturally auto-corrected it to chagrin. So that's the next step. Sensorality is chagrin. Is chagrin candid? Is chagrin charged? Chagrin grins. What's a smile to a grin? Nets are sent. Natural definition, direct iteration complete. Made a little short video, are nets sensors? I had this very clear intuition of, again, of just filtration, of something like of porousness, something with holes in it. And filter, sensor always just brings up this immediate conceptualization of a net, of a filter, of something with holes in it. But nets are sent, and again, sent, tension, direct iteration, and then I sent you a package in the mail, right? We've already proven that's a reduced form of essentiality, essential, right? And so that's a word form you use all of the time. I sent you something. You sent sentience. We covered that directly, but the word net, you know, the basis of a geometric object, nets, like the New York basketball team, those letters in the syllability, the letters associated to sound, is complete to scent. Natural definition, direct iteration, complete. Tension is sension, pointing that explicitly again. Sensorality nets tension. Natural definition, direct iteration. Net is total, net is all said and done. All right, when it's all said and done, how much are you left over with? Net is profit. Sensorality nets profit. Natural definition. Is profit tense? Are nets tense? Sensorality slips through the cracks. What is a cut? What is a cross? Why does a cut produce a cross section? So that was another direct geometric intuition I have. Again, a dome is a fraction of a sphere. And correcting something that just came to mind, I said, you know, all surface is like a bumpy sphere. Spheres are bumps, right? Just being specific. The actual bumpiness is the sphericality. But if you go into geometry class, what's an orbit? Tycho Brahe, Kepler, Newton. We take a cut of a conic. We take a conic section. It's like you take a cylinder and you cut it, and then we get it's the ellipse. It's the orbits. But I'm focusing and emphasizing the verbiage, the logic. Why does a cut produce a cross section? What is a cut to a section? What is a cut to a cross? Sensorality sections crossing. Sensorality is a crosswalk. Fundamental theorem of mathematics, a cross is an intersection. Right, when you root something, you're finding where things interact. And then I've referenced it directly in this series, and then Eric Weinstein's like, oh, I'm not a good mathematician. If I step on a crack, I break my mother's back, is awareness of what you guys have called the Riemann hypothesis. Because again, things can't actually touch physically because of this charge, repulsion, right? And so when you're rooting something, you're finding intersection points. And so you just have this physical irreducibility and independent objects bumping up to each other. That's where they intersect. But an intersection, we'll get to here in a second, is a collision. Moving along. What is interaction to intersection? Sensorality sections action. Natural definition, direct iteration. A collision is an interaction. Colliding intersects. What is collision to sensation? And we've explicitly asked multiple times, you need friction to have sensation. What is collision to sensation? Right, you can't have collision, you can't have velocity without friction, you can't have movement without friction, you can't have a collision without intersection. Just building up to a direct, complete statement. Sensation is tense, sensation is tension. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is tensionality. Tensionality is sensionality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Again, sensionality is the complete generalized form of the word sense. Sensorality is tenor tension. A lot of these are natural definitions, direct iterations. This whole process is this. I'm just showing you places where it would be a meaningful step. And you're like, that's one line after the next line. And again, yep, keep up, guys. But they'll be labeled on your screen. I might say them, might not. Tenor contains tone. Natural definition, direct iteration. Containment is. What is within to is? Right? Is a statement of identity. Within is a statement of containment. What is logicality to lethargicality? Is logic agentic? Again, I'm vibe coding. I'm mu-maxing vibe coding that my workflow is agentic all of the time. What is containment to inversion? Right, this evolution of physical systems, it contains these physical properties. They have to invert. Again, the basis of solution is a solvent, but the linguistic representation of solution is solute. Right, is 7 even? Right, what is consistent? Fundamental theorem of geometry, chirality contains inversion. And previously, fundamental theorem of geometry, geometry contains chirality, chirality contains inversion. and derivation is definitive, it is limited. And so we're forcing this, we'll get to, again, just moving through our steps. What is value to quality? Sensorality values equality. Sensorality is equity, liability. A lot of companies out there stealing from me, committing profound crimes, and just in a big group that think they're not going to have equity, liability. If your liabilities outweigh your assets, well, and you can't pay them, that's called insolvency. So we'll just call every company, every legal entity besides me, the big insolvents, right? You have the FANG, you have the big five, now you just have Brad and then insolvency everywhere else. But actually, you guys are violating the law so profoundly. You guys are all clown level dork brain idiots 4000. Sensorality quantifies equity. What is equilibrium to normal? Fundamental theorem, and I just have this again labeled as this would be from economics to thermodynamics specifically, but equity is equilibrium. Natural definition, direct iteration. Again, you're just changing the syllability as you progress through that geometric sequence. Is smellable sensible? Is smell small? And so this was another just historical fact, again, presented, again, grew up in kind of like a very loose Catholic Christian type of environment, went to a Catholic grade school, but you get introduced to this thing in history more generally of this concept of appreciation, or specifically the terminology wonder and awe. Again, the Christian heritage or something has some sort of like the 7 something among others, but you get this verbiage wonder and awe. And it's specifically in relation to like natural beauty, like appreciating your environment. In reality, it's empirical awareness of absolute size. Right, when you go see a big the Grand Canyon, which I've never seen, or a big waterfall, you're like, holy shit, that's all real stuff doing real things just like me. It's not sentient, but it's real, it exists, and it's out there. And so what you have historically as wonder and awe is absolutely an awareness of absolute size. It makes me feel small in the bigger picture of things. Oh, it's rather reassuring. That means I'm not that big in the bigger picture. All of that sentiment comes from, again, understanding that absolute size is real. Density is definite. What is sensuality to incension? So now again, remember, we have this incense word where I've said it wasn't a word, it definitely was defined, but people naturally use it, right? We have incense, you're burning aroma, and incense, a fragrance, or you're very mad or you're angry, you're not being treated with, things aren't making sense, you're incensed. But pointing out that C spelling. So now we are integrating, again, this C versus S. We're just showing some sort of unique overall form with a direct specific solution. Sensorality is incensionality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Incensed is charged. Incensed is sensorality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Remember the sensorality with a C. Don't you see how it's that incensed? It's a direct iteration. It's the same syllability. Sensorality contains incension. Sensorality is incensed odor, like angry odor. You'll see the spelling is on your screen. Natural definition, direct iteration. Is incense odor? All right, I'm going to burn some incense. Is that odor? Sensorality is odor incense. All right, we just changed that order from incensed odor to odor incense. Again, this direct unilaterality of logic, right? Things are definite. Things are one way. They are chronologically unique. Sensorality is insentiality. So now we have, again, incension, and then we just generalize, and we still have that EIA sequence, right? Sensorality is sensual. But now we start with a C, and then we go to an S. Worth pointing out, directly literal, but now we've like kind of completely derived in order CESIA. And you're like, Brad, that's not an alphabetical order. But again, it's this consonants, it's this identity EIA iterated by C and S, our iteration elements. And specific to sensorality, C and S. And then we get like cesium, right? Sensorality is cesium, the element. I mean, directly presented by the syllability. Sensorality centralizes incense. Natural definition, direct iteration. I did not say what you, not the incest, not that one, incense. But I have that as a fundamental theorem, odor incenses. Natural definition, direct iteration, back to incenses, meaning like incense, the fragrance, the aroma, the odor, odor incenses. What is an invention to a contraption? Sensorality is contraptionality. So once again, we have the word trap, right? But contra P-T-I-O-N ality. Just an amalgamation of like no base word is what this struck me as. Because again, we have this sensor, right? That's our base, and we're showing some range, which is again, contraptionality, contraptionality. Again, it does contain the word trap, but the way this syllability presented, it was just an amalgamation with no base. Like the word reality is just a word form of a prefix and a suffix. Sensorality is tense in tension, natural definition, direct iteration, tensiality in senses. Is odor tense? A sensor is a regulator. Is regulation algorithmic? Yes, like directly, immediately. So there's a good example of something. All of these little questions, they might give you some cute, funny ha-ha-has, or they might make you think, or they might actually be meaningful directly to fundamental physics. What is tension to charge? Pretty sure it's sensorality, because tension is sension. But we're just showing this direct iteration. But is regulation algorithmic? Yeah, you upload a video on YouTube, and they'll say, yep, no copyright checks complete, you're all good. And then you publish a thing, and then Andrew Ross Sorkin's right there on my TV, and he's stealing from me again today. And then you email Penguin Random House, and it says you have 7 days before we delete your entire life. And you're like, nope, this is completely illegal. No response. Huh. But is regulation algorithmic? Is a directly natural progression question that is immediately the answer is yes. Again, that is what we're doing. That is what will complete sensorality. Again, this overall derivation process doesn't stop, and I'm not trying to do anything. Well, I'm trying to change my life. I'm trying to make some money and get the fuck out of the United States. I am trying to do that. But in terms of like scientific proofing, I'm not trying to do anything. It's just, this is definitely the answers. The conceptualization refines to a point of provability about every 7 years, I think. I'm certain of that. And it's just like we have enough time has passed, enough work that work can be done. But is regulation algorithmic directly produced by this sequentiality? And the answer is completely yes. Sensorality is regulationality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Because before we axiomatize speciality, right, we got to a question. That's the part I haven't looked up, but I'll look it up once I get to the done with this one, just to see if there's any difference, which there can't be. It has to be a unique syllability and a unique definition, but the analysis process is the exact same. So what led to speciality is not going to lead to sensorality, so there's no point. But presenting everything as completely novel, because there's so much derivation, you don't really remember. And on a personal direct level, it's just like a feeling of novelty. And then the assignment of logic and language is, my whole life has been profoundly trivial. Like to the point where you don't think about it. Sensorality is regulationality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality regulates odor. Clear, direct, clean-cut definition. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality regulates regularity. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is regularity to regulation? Sensorality regulates irregularity. Insensitive is irregular. Restating the fundamental theorem of emotion, insecurities are irregularities. What is intention to intonation? What is the tone of intonation? Sensorality is motiality. Nope, not like a proctor of the Jewish faith or what people call Moses, not a Moshe, but motion generalized. Sensorality is motiality. Motiality. Motion, motiality. Right? What's the relationship of movement and motion? Both clear words, and it's just like, what's the linguistic completion? Motiality. Motiality moves. Motion, movement. Is security regular? And so that's where I finished up with the derivation. My rights continue to be violated, is profoundly and extensively illegal. I continue to beg for anybody to give me a little bit of money to eat properly, to sleep properly, and to work. I have been profoundly and extensively T-word my entire life for existing around people who do nothing besides play games all day and compete over nothing and care about nothing, and I say it every day. Why can I not be allowed to eat food? That is not a joke or an exaggeration. Why can I not confidently record my research and discoveries? Nobody cares. That is what I have for today. The world continues to be a complete criminal shithole of nothing. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.